Hello. Today we have somebody who we actually got to meet when we were in New York, and so it's been a minute. Welcome, Andrea from Astoria, a great part of Queens. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you both again.
Great
Great
to
to
see
see
you
you.
again. And you just took you were talking to us about Jennifer Diane Ghost and you took her
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. So Sarah Easterly is kind of the
Mm-hmm.
director of that Adoptee
Right.
Voices group, which is amazing. I highly recommend that community for any adoptee, but it's also
Yeah.
it's very in demand. So it's like if you're not there at the button waiting for it to kind of
I've
open
heard that.
registration. Yeah,
Yeah.
so Jennifer was one of the facilitators and she was amazing and I'm looking forward to the next cohort because I was very vigilant and got into the next writing group as well.
It's so
That's
great. And that's her
great.
voice. She has a great
Yeah.
voice too. It's like
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. And she gives great feedback and she's such an
Oh,
amazing
good.
listener. Yeah. So
Oh,
it was such a gift to spend time with her and listen and write with her and listen to her talk to other writers. It's great.
I love that. Well, we want to hear about you. So
Yeah.
how would you like to tell us?
Oh my gosh. I guess I could start with like birth year and place and see where it goes from there. But I was born in 1976, so post baby scoop, in
Mm-hmm.
California, in Sacramento, California. And I've sort of come to a place where I'm saying the narrative that sustained me for most of my life until I had my daughter really was that a really kind and wonderful woman that got pregnant. She was a teacher and she had a relationship with another teacher and it just didn't work out. And so she was in Greece and it wasn't appropriate or acceptable to be a single mom in Greece in 1976. So she
Mm-hmm.
loved me so much, the good old lines. She loved me so much that she came to the United States where she had a brother to give me a better life. So there's a lot of appeal to raising a child, like what opportunities the US gives someone. There's so many narratives that come into play there, but that was the very simple story that I've known forever. I don't even remember hearing it for the first time. It's been so much a part of
I'm
my
I'm
narrative.
curious
Mhm.
because recently Greece has
Mm-hmm.
granted citizenship to, were you one of them?
Mm-hmm.
So because I wasn't born there, I kind of fall outside of that population of people that were granted
Mm.
citizenship. But I'm on the social media groups of the folks that are mobilizing for that, and I'm really, really um, grateful for the work of the activists that really pushed for that. Mary Carter Ross and Rhonda von
Mm-hmm.
Steen, they're amazing people, and Rhonda wrote a great book. But that's really like Greece did some stuff during the Cold War,
Hmm.
and as is not unfamiliar with other countries that were trying to basically traffic children to richer
Right.
countries. So
Hmm.
it's really a tragedy. But people have been acting, adoptees really and allies have been acting to do the right thing ish, right? Like try to at least restore citizenship for people that were born in Greece and then
Yeah.
adopted out. But that is not exactly my story. I'm kind of adjacent to that. I'm about a decade after that
That's right.
happening.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was my bad for getting those
No,
years wrong.
no, not bad at all. That history is like informed so much of my search and kind of how I'm thinking about myself
Mm.
now. Um, but that was that story of like, yeah, this wonderful person that she did such a great thing coming here.
Hmm.
She did indeed have a brother in California, and that is how there's no lie in that story. There's just so much more to that story that even my parents
Right.
didn't know.
The nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I had my daughter, who is now 14, like as is the familiar story, kind of like I was just like, no, 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 there's more. You don't just love a baby and be like, bye, let me just go to another
Yeah.
country and drop it off there.
Yeah.
So that was hard. That was really hard. Like, and it doesn't get easier, I don't think, after. Like sometimes I'm just looking here going, what if I did not have these memories with this human? Like what was this? So I started searching after my daughter was born and go ahead.
Well, I wanted to, before we get to the
Yeah.
search,
Yeah.
where were you
Yeah.
placed? Were
Sure.
you, all of that kind of stuff?
Sure. Um, this is interesting too, because it kind of, I think, picks up on that like Cold War history, a little predating me. Um, so my adoptive parents, mother is Greek American, father's Italian American, couldn't have a child. I was raised as an only child. They were in Central California, Stockton at the time,
No,
and
close to me.
and
Hmm.
I was born in Sacramento. So, well, how was I placed? A Greek doctor, the
Oh,
obstetrician,
here we go
that,
again.
yeah, real kind of clannish stuff. Um, um, kind of, I don't know all the details. I've tried to reach out to, he's no longer living. His son is a dentist in Sacramento. I've tried to reach out to him on LinkedIn because there's no other public way to get in touch with this person besides through their office, and nobody writes me back. But this obstetrician knew the brother, I think, and also knew my mom's uncle who worked for the California probate court. So
Oh
my
boy.
adoption was able to go totally outside of any agencies. A lot of oversight was not there. Like I don't even I don't know what's in my adoption. I don't know how much of an adoption file I have besides a birth record because there was a lawyer that my parents had to get to make this legal, right? To legally adopt me, but there's very little else. Like that kind of realization is
Yeah.
infuriating, I think.
I'm curious after you tell us about your
Hmm.
early years. I want to ask you about the California birth certificate and if you can get that and all that, but
I
we
have
can
stuff
talk
to
about
say
that
about that.
later.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing though about the Greek connection because it troubles me more and more. The all of the kind of many of the children that were trafficked out of Greece in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, those adoptions were facilitated by a Greek American group called AHEP, American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association or something. Both of
Uh-huh.
these Greek guys in the US, my mom's uncle and the doctor, really prominent people in that
Oh,
organization, very involved. And the uncle that worked for the probate court also was involved in adoptions for two of my mom's first cousins. So there's some
oh,
just like investigations into family stuff that I've been trying to get information about. Some people want to talk to me and some people don't. So it's
I'm
just
sure.
shady.
What did your adoptive parents tell you? I mean, did they tell you you were adopted, obviously, or
And it was all like I think for the time, the tools that they used, they thought were the best. Like I had really joyful books about the adopted baby being wanted. And I think it was actually called The Chosen Baby. I think that was the name of the
Right.
book.
We've seen
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I have it somewhere. And that was the book that was read to me. And it was really about two people that wanted a child so badly and couldn't have one and were waiting and waiting and then about an invisible kind of loving mother that you don't see in the pages of the book that loved the child so much to give her away. So yeah, they told me that little tidy narrative that I started with, that someone loved me so much and really wanted to give me a better life in the United States, and that they wanted a baby so badly and they waited and waited, and that was the story I was told.
it's
So they
just
were supportive
incredible
of
the
yeah,
brainwashing.
yeah.
I mean, it's so
It is.
clearly the steps, the what the earmarks of a cult,
Yeah,
of things
Yes,
that cults do.
yes,
It's so
yeah.
clear to me now
It
when I
yeah,
is.
hear these stories.
agreed. And it took me a really long time to see that, and now
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
me
not see it.
too.
I know,
No,
same.
you can't unsee these things. Now
Mhm,
everything is a blinking light. But you
mhm.
knew your Greek roots, like they wanted you because your mom was Greek or your father was Greek.
Yeah, my mom, and so
No.
and that's where it's interesting, right? Like some of what everybody wanted or requested happened in a way. Like I know it was really important to my biological mother that I went to a Greek Orthodox family, so I did. That's I like so
That's
I think there's
rare.
yeah, and I know this is where like there's so much like internal conflict. I know um my parents my when I say my parents, I'm talking about my adopted parents. They did right in so many ways. Like they never went to Greece. My dad was Italian American. They never went abroad, but they made sure I in college went on like a summer educational trip, right? They were like they raised me in the church. They raised me with the culture. So in a way, I think there's a way to look at it like, no, we did what we were supposed to do. Like we raised you this way that we said, but it still is like that transaction of getting a baby just does not
Mm,
sit well with me. And all the
no,
support systems that don't exist to just make it like
Right.
okay to be a single mom and
Exactly.
okay to be infertile. Like if you can't have a child, you don't need to remove somebody else's child from their home. So
right.
all of these things, the older I get, just like make me more and more angry.
I know.
Did you have
Uh,
siblings or were you the only?
No, I was raised as an only, and I have wonderful adoptive parents. I feel compelled that I have, the good adoptee has
Yeah,
to say
yeah.
that. Like my
Mm-hmm.
father passed away in 2020, but my mom lives in New York now. We moved her across the country after my dad died, and actually that's when I found a lot of all of the papers she saved. So I
Oh,
don't know if you want me to go back into the kind of search story.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So in
So,
20,
so she
go
had
ahead.
papers, right?
She saved things. Yeah.
And did she throughout what was she, did you have questions? Did you at some point say,
Right.
hey, earlier before your daughter, and did they share them with you, or was it?
That's a good question. My mom and I just talked about this recently because I was like, for the first, after therapy, I was like, adoption is trauma. And she's like, I always said that you could have your paperwork, but you weren't interested for a long time. And I was like, I don't remember that. Like, I don't remember and I don't know that doesn't mean I think she wasn't. I don't know if her memory is faulty or if my memory is faulty because I think I felt so loyal for
Yeah.
my whole life. Like, if, from when I got married, my husband be like, oh, your parents are like, do not talk about like, I was like defender of my
Yeah.
parents for really like mundane things. And now I'm like, so it's possible that she did say, I have your paperwork. And I just thought it would be such a betrayal to even show interest. I remember like conversations with people that are like, oh, you're adopted. Do you want to meet your real parents? And I'm like, I know my real parents. So I was a fierce, like loyal
Yeah. Same.
adoptee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brainwashed. You were part of a cult.
We all were, right?
We
Yes,
Like,
we
all were.
were.
oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah. So I mom
It's
says
weird
that
to think about. Yeah.
mhm,
When
mhm,
Sarah said that, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Go on.
yeah.
I know.
It's a lot. It's like a hard pill to swallow, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for that. Like I think there's
We
truth
had to
to that.
gaslight ourselves. I said that recently, but we did. We
Yeah.
had to gaslight ourselves to
Hmm.
survive.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's true. And I think of I never knew growing up all of the people that didn't survive or struggle. Like, okay,
No.
I don't, sorry, I didn't mean to take it that direction, but I know now that so many adoptees like cannot talk about their stories for
Right.
whatever reason because they were so bad. And yeah, so it is about survival. You're right.
Yeah. That's why we're here, right? To tell the
Hmm.
stories
Hmm.
because there's so many who don't. And we didn't know either. We didn't know there was a community or that there was people not in this situation. We didn't even think about it.
Hmm.
It's crazy to think that we didn't think about it. That's what's
Yeah.
strange.
And
But
I I was raised because of that uncle who worked for the probate court.
hmm
I was raised with one, two, three, four adoptive cousins. And
Oh
since
my gosh.
hmm
that's
and since I've
interesting.
gotten older, that number has grown, but that uncle wasn't involved. I think, and I don't really know those cousins as much, but there were four that we saw each other regularly. Two of whom I'm really still close to, and we never talked about it until very recently. And I think that one of the ways I had courage to search was because the oldest of the adopted cousins was like, "Yeah, I found my birth parents, and wait, we could do that. Like that's not like forbidden. And your
Yeah.
life isn't like didn't fall apart, and you still have a job and a family. Like wait, like that was because an older cousin, did it before me, and she was baby scoop 100%. And
Mm.
but I was like, oh, I could do this too. It almost gave me permission.
So
So
Oh,
you start your search. Your
yeah,
daughter's born. You start your search.
but it took a few years. My daughter was 6. Like I didn't immediately start, I had a newborn. So, and I was like just shocked
yeah.
that this human could come into the world and like I could be the first genetic connection that I ever met, of course, was her. Um, and so it took me 6 years to reach out to the state of California. Um, Found out like that I didn't, I signed up for that. I'm going to use the wrong words, but where you can put in you can put in kind of the request to find someone. You could say, I'm open to being communicated with. Like you create like an open contact invitation or something,
Mm-hmm.
but also realize nobody else had. Um, I get back redacted records, which are kind of hysterical because the cover letter's like, we hope this answers your questions. And then you look at the
Oh
document
my
and it's like
gosh.
black mark, black mark, black mark, black mark.
Yeah,
Like, no, it
that's
answers
so
nothing.
awful.
But
Yeah.
so because it was a private adoption, no agency, the state not really involved, did your parents must have known that the uncle who worked at the probate, there must have been information
Yes.
that they had.
Yes,
So
they
you
did.
had and you hadn't asked them yet, or they just
No.
didn't volunteer it when you started doing the search?
Both, actually. Like, I didn't tell my mom. In fact, I just told her the other day. I was like, oh, my redacted file. She's like, I didn't know you wrote to the state. I'm like, yeah, I did. 2016, I wrote to the state. And so I did that secretly because I felt like it was a big betrayal of my parents. And,
Right.
but I was still so, like, the curiosity could not be kind of squashed anymore. And then, okay, 2016, get the redacted file. It doesn't answer anything. Um, but I knew somewhere in my memory, and this is why I think maybe my mom did tell me that she'd help me look, but maybe I blocked that out because I knew the last name. I knew the last
Oh,
name. And I just did a Facebook search. It's the last name, Sacramento. And I found a couple people and I reached out. And in 2017, so that's the timeline, like the real active search started 2016, 2017. I'm searching on Facebook. My cousin's telling me she found people. She was looking on Ancestry and she's like, I see your birth record. I see someone with that last name gave birth on
oh,
your birth date at this hospital where you were born. And I'm like, holy crap. That's when I look on Facebook, I reach out and it turns out, and I got a phone call like the next day. Um,
really?
yeah, and it's one of those and it's interesting now having heard your podcast and listened to really kind of, I say going down the rabbit hole, but that pathologizes it. I don't want to put like really just consuming all the information I can. Like, oh my God, people actually like do this with like consultation. And I didn't. I was just like, hi, I have a weird story to tell you that if you don't know anything about it, you
Mhm.
can ignore this. It was really awkward and not prepared to hear anything, but I will never forget being on the subway back to Queens and getting this phone call from the person who's my biological first cousin. And he's like, I am a year older than you. My parents are in Greece right now. I called my dad. First, I called my brother. He has an older half brother who remembered when the aunt from Greece came
Oh,
to have a
and
baby.
stayed. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I called my dad in Greece, who's there, but yet like they go there, they're retired, they live there a few months out of the year. And he calls his dad and he's like, we've been waiting for this call. He's like, my dad wants to talk to
Mm.
you.
So this is the uncle that she went to stay with in Sacramento.
Exactly, exactly. And so 2017, I spoke to him. And wait, yes, 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 yes. Um, and then maybe it was 2018. I might have skipped a year because I met him in 2018, and I met my
Wow.
biological mother in 2019.
Oh, she's alive. Good. I'm glad to hear that part.
Not anymore.
Oh,
Not
not anymore.
anymore. Not
Sorry.
anymore. But I did get to meet her before she died.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Good.
heartbreaking, that just that statement, we've been waiting for this.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I
The
got on the
loss
phone,
of family is so huge.
I know.
like I feel my body reacting to what you're reminding me of, and I might cry when I say it, but I'm
Mm.
trying to get better.
Yeah.
When I called, I think it was summer of 2018 when I talked to my uncle. He was in Greece, call him, and he did say, I've been waiting for your call. And he said, I was there when you were born.
Mm.
And nobody
Oh,
was ever able to say that to me.
no.
But it's also so sad because he was with his sister in a like,
Yeah.
and I've learned her story now that she came to the States 8 months pregnant, was detained. The airport is that story has changed. Like, I don't know exactly if she had a layover somewhere and then was detained, but immigration got involved. And she had 2 weeks before I was born, had to appear in court to sort of testify through her brother, because she didn't speak English fluent enough, testify through her brother that she wasn't like trying to
Be a
like
citizen.
illegally stay in this country. And I found all of that paperwork, which is really sad. I found all that paperwork this summer in her apartment because she left
Oh,
that to me after she died. So we are now have this apartment in Athens that was hers, and that's how I'm getting to know her, through like going through
yeah.
my dead mother's things. It's really, really hard.
Yeah. I
It's a
have that a little bit too, getting to know someone through that. When you met her, was she cognizant? Was she healthy, or did you have,
So
what was that?
honestly, I cried so much. I My memories of that are me crying and just like um being very overwhelmed with emotion,
Mhm.
and she seemed completely cognizant and with it to me. Um
How did you went to Greece and met
yeah,
her? So was
yeah.
she was sick when you met her? Or what was the scenario?
So I'll go back a little bit. When
Okay.
After we did meet her brother around Christmas time in 2018, that was lovely. I met my cousin that called me. I went with my husband and my daughter. I felt like I was sneaking out of my parents' house in Modesto,
Oh, I'm
California,
sure.
to drive that hour to Sacramento, because we were there with my parents for Christmas to see them, and then now sneaking away to see my
Mm.
biological family. Could not talk about it with my adoptive father. I feel like
Um,
wait, Louise, do you have that story also?
yeah, I
Something like,
do.
yeah,
I do. And I had to sneak with Colorado. Everybody's in Colorado, and I did
mhm,
some sneaky drive here and do this. And it's just the worst feeling. It makes me mad to go back that it went that way and I didn't handle it differently myself, even, more because that's where I was at. And you feel weird, like you're having an affair or something. It's,
exactly. And it's so sad. It's like we shouldn't have to feel guilty, but
oh,
nobody gave us the
never.
tools or the language
No.
and for a long time it was just like, oh, when I talked about it with my mom, she's like, oh, you need your health information. And certainly that's true. I need my health information, but like I need more than my
That's where
health
they wanted it to
information.
end.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. So we
Yeah.
meet my uncle. It was great. He's like, do you want to talk to your mother? I'm like, I, and it was like, that's how fast it happened. And he called her in Greece and I spoke to her. But I speak enough Greek that it was like, fine. It was like, how are you? We're fine. I'm okay. Like it was one of these things. It was very surface and very, um, joyful, I guess is the word. Like I was emotional and also just like, what is happening? How is this happening? So I spoke to her. That was December 2018, and we planned. And summer 2019, I think July or August, I can't remember which month, we met her in Greece. And I cried
And
and
you
cried
went
and
to her
cried.
apartment, or did you meet her at your brother's? How did that go?
So I did not meet her at the apartment that is now that where she lived. On her That was her apartment. Like that's another thing, right? Like she had a job, she had an apartment. Like this woman was on it. Like she was not this fragile little, I can't take care. She could totally have done
Yeah.
this. But for all the shame and all, she didn't tell all of her siblings. Like I was the big secret coming from America. And
Did she
that's
have other kids after you?
never married,
Mm.
never had she was not known to like, from what I've been told, there was no like serious person in her life, no partner, just me.
So
Um,
this kind of informed the rest of her life, obviously.
That is. That's what
I
it
should
does.
also say she had me, this was really emotional too. She had me when she was 41.
Whoa.
Wow.
She
Hmm.
couldn't be a single mother at 41. I
Hmm.
mean, let's just ponder that.
That it makes me sick actually. Like that was one of the things when I met her. I think that was
Mhm.
a new wave of. Do you have this where everything, like maybe every
Yeah.
year or every new memory or every new thing you find out, you get another wave of sadness?
Yeah.
Mm. That happened because I was
Yeah.
42 when I met her, and I just thought, okay, if I didn't have my husband and I found myself pregnant, I would have so many choices. So many, like it'd be
Yeah.
hard, but I'd have so many choices. And this person just
Mm.
like, no, they sent her to a home for unwed women
Shipped
first.
off. Yeah, shipped off at 41
at 41. First, she went to
with
a
a
home for
dog.
unwed mothers in Athens.
Ugh,
Mm.
And so I'm sure she was with women that were much younger. I'd like to find out more about where she was.
Yeah.
And then the family tells it like she was going crazy there. Sorry for that language, but I'm sure like she was not well being in a home. They had to lie to her employer because she would have lost her job. Like, oh, she's sick. She's going away for
at
some
41.
at 41, like a
Gosh.
full
Yeah,
adult
she's yeah, who can
functioning
take care
woman.
of a baby? Who can take care
Hmm.
of a baby?
Hmm.
Mm.
But instead, I do know that because she was the only single sibling, one of nine, she ended up taking care of her mother the rest of her mother lived with her until she died, like in her apartment, in my biological mother's apartment that was in her name. And that, so I did not meet her there though. I met her, the family. This is, I think, a kind of Greek thing that like sometimes there's a family property like somewhere, and then the children have their own lives and have their own houses, but kind of tend to come back to the family house like in the summer. So many of the kids, or the younger ones, especially my biological mother's younger siblings, were born in the family house back in the like early 40s.
Mm.
So it's an old house. It's in a beautiful part. It's gorgeous. It's like
I bet.
it's gorgeous. But that's where I met her because that's in the summer she would go, and because she was the only unwed child, some family has told me like it became her responsibility to kind of keep up the house because
Mm.
that
She
she
had a
didn't
lot of
have.
responsibilities given to her after that.
Hmm. And clearly that's what gets me too, because I'm like she could care for her mother, she could care for this
Right?
property, she could care for herself, but you all think she couldn't have cared for a kid. So
Yeah.
it's
And
Mm.
sad.
now they welcome you. And now you're welcome, which is so interesting too, because
Not everybody.
oh, not
That's
everybody.
reunion, right?
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah. I mean the people who have welcomed me are amazing, and but that just brings up, you've said this on your show, that reunion is
Mm.
just a new beginning. It's not like the movie doesn't end with look at everyone's hugging. It just
Right.
keeps going and going and going.
What was she able to tell you about
Mm.
your birth and the circumstances and your father?
Pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
nothing. So I asked
Oh,
her. So everyone also, the family's like, I wish you met her sooner because she was more, she was starting to suffer from dementia.
mm.
Oh,
Um, but I did not see it. I didn't see a confused person. I didn't see, she was very, like my husband tried to, very like, he's a very traditional Greek guy. And he's like, sees this little 82-year-old, 83-year-old person trying to help her like down these steps. And she pulled her arm away and she's like, I can do it by myself, like fiercely
oh,
independent. And he's like, okay, I see where you get it from, you know, like, pulling away and being like, let me do it. She but she was basically, what all I remember her saying is, I thank God so much, I thought about you so much, I'm so like she was just, I'm so happy you're here, I'm so happy you're here, I've prayed for you, I've prayed for this. She was so happy. She didn't cry,
oh.
she was smiling. We were like, we went out to the square and ate with the family, and she was like drinking and cheersing and happy. And I felt kind of like a zoo animal. You could tell the
Oh,
family was
yeah.
like it was.
I still feel like a zoo animal. Do you look like her?
I do. I do. I feel like I look like my uncle too, who like we have the same forehead and the same eyes. And um, because of the ethnic similarities in my adoptive family, I'm not like different coloring than them, but our
Mm.
sizes are very different. Like my family's really tall, and they're bigger in stature than I am, and I'm like 5'3" and tiny comparatively. And then I met my biological mother, and I'm like, I see it. Like we're the same size. It's
Oh,
Now,
wild.
did your uncle know anything about who the father was, or
So he
someone
said
must
that
have.
he doesn't remember. I could ask the brothers. When I asked my mother, I did ask her, and I took her aside at one point. She was getting joy out of showing me around the house, the family home, and like, this is a picture of your grandfather. This is a picture of your grandmother. And so she took the little time we had. It was one day, one afternoon, to give me whatever history. And remember, like, I speak Greek like a Greek American that went to Greek school at the church. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like once a week. Like
Yeah.
it's a very Greek American access that I have to the language. And so she's lived there and telling me these things that I'm like, okay, I got to take it all in. So my experience of that day was crying and also learning whatever her pointing to pictures and taking me around this house. I did at a point, I was able to take her aside and say, do you remember anything about my father? Can you tell me anything? And she stopped and she was like, I don't remember, but if I do, I'll tell you. So I don't know if that was a coping mechanism. I don't know if she
Like at
really did, like,
40, yeah, at 40, you know who he is.
but that's when the California birth certificate comes back because
Okay.
I got it eventually. It took a long time. Um, but if you fast forward to like earlier this year, one of my very close friends that still lives in California is an attorney, and he's like, I can help you write a petition. And he did. And I mean, a friend of mine helped me petition the state and we got the document released. So she put a name on that um, document on the birth certificate. It matches the documents that I found in her apartment this summer after
Mm.
which were right by her bed. Like my daughter actually found them. I got to give her credit. We're like going through things. I'm an emotional wreck in her apartment, and my daughter's like, "Mama, you got to come in here." She found right by my birth mother's bedside table in that drawer all of the
Mm.
adoption paperwork, like my parents'
Wow.
names that she had written, her the statement to appear in court in San Francisco, immigration court, the the petition that relinquished to her rights to me,
Mm.
um,
This was
everything,
close to her. This is right there in her bedside. That shows
everything.
you what it
Yeah,
meant.
that's what I think. But we also, I do know that she was kind of falling into dementia. We found, like in her closet, we found like soiled clothes and stuff like that, right? Like things that were sad in a different way. Like you could see the
Mhm.
evidence of a
Yeah.
person whose mind was aging and leaving them. Like we found a lot of pieces of paper, the same little pieces of paper torn up with basically the 3 streets to get from the bus stop to her house. So she
Oh.
was like getting lost, I think, because we're like, why do we have, it's like this street, this street, this street. And we'd find that on papers everywhere that she had written. So I think she was like always trying to find her way home,
Mm.
Mm.
which is like an amazing metaphor for us
I
too.
was just going to say that.
Yes.
Very metaphorical.
And so
Mm.
what? So the father, nothing. You've done ancestry. What? Tell us.
So, I did them all. The big three, I think. Ancestry, 23andMe. Those are really like American and Western
Right. I was
European
just going to say
Right.
they're
focused.
not, probably
Right.
wouldn't have Greece.
Mm-mm.
No.
And everything I've found has been a really distant hit on those. Um, but I also, from a colleague I used to work with who is adopted as well, she's like, here, I ordered too many kits or I don't know what. She just gave me a My Heritage
Yeah.
uh, kit. And if there are any Greek adoptees or Eastern European adoptees that are listening to this, I would try My Heritage because that I have I've gotten close family hits on My Heritage, and they match the last name of the person on my birth certificate, and also on the lawyers had to in 1976 show that they made a good faith effort to try to contact the father.
Oh.
So there's all kinds of like paperwork from the American embassy. It's like in Greece, which is also like I might just this like haunted this woman. Like she went back to her life after I was born, tried to, and just was like being hounded with this paperwork to continually remind her that she gave up her kid. Um,
Yeah,
and
I would think
it,
the embassy would be involved because now you're a citizen, so they want to track
mhm,
like, did the father say she could come
mhm.
here?
And all we know is
Interesting.
that he never
Responded.
responded. So I have his place of employment back in 76. I am a teacher. They are both teachers. That's a kind of funny
Mm.
coincidence.
Yeah.
And and the name that she gave. So I know she knew something. Again, whether her mind really, really forgot or whether psychologically over the years she was like, I need to put this in a compartment and throw it away. I don't know. But the people, yeah, that's interesting too when like you get your DNA and that worked in a very different way than my biological mother's side. Um, somebody reached out to me on my ancestry and was like, "Oh, I see that we're related. Do you know this person, this person, this person? And so now I had met my family, my mother's side. And I
Oh,
was like, so I have a story. I don't know if you know if anybody's on your side's talked about this, but I think we're probably related on my biological father's side. And this person then wrote back saying, I'm 15 years old. I just really like genealogy. I've got to talk about this with my dad. And he
Oh,
was in Greece. He's in Athens, this kid. Not a kid probably anymore, like a maybe almost close to 20 years old, like 19, so kind of a kid, I guess. And I never he wrote back again saying it's very delicate. I don't think we're going to be able to talk about this right now. And so I
mm.
waited. I got my birth certificate since that communication. I was like, so hi again. um, the name on my birth certificate is this, my father's name. I see that I have a hit from a person who says he's a biological uncle, but he's my
mm,
closest family member with the exact same name. So I think it's probably a family name. Maybe it's
hmm,
somebody knows something. I just know that somebody knows
of
something,
course.
and I haven't heard back. So they've kind of ghosted.
Yeah,
For
I get
now,
that
right? I
for now.
mean,
You haven't found the right person.
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe.
or just time for it to
Yeah,
marinate with them,
Hmm.
and then it can, it's a continuing story.
It also, I'm like, how much like it's been, I've not really been rejected, even if it's some
right,
people don't want to meet me. I
right.
have people that have accepted me. So I'm like, oh, what if I keep pushing? I don't know. There's a lot of fear around and anxiety around like,
It's ongoing.
do I put myself out there? And I've heard you
Yeah.
both talk about
I
this
wonder if
too.
he was married, because I just wonder if he was married, like it was an affair
Maybe,
or
maybe.
something like that, because of her age. I'm just, you work
Yeah.
in school, somebody
I do
that's where
know
my
that
mind went.
yeah, you could very well be right. You're probably right. I do know he was younger than her.
Oh,
Um, mhm. Like
spicy.
10 years from what I
Wow.
understand. Uh-huh. But as all these stories go, we only know a little bit. So it could have been an
Right.
affair. How did I not think about that before? Could have been an
I
affair.
was just
He might have
thinking
been
like
married.
how, yeah, because why would the shame be so big, right? Like for his side, maybe like, oh, there's someone
More
else.
speculation is more Ghost Kingdom, isn't
It
it? It's
is. It's
Yes,
Ghost
yes,
Kingdom. It's just,
so
yes.
it's like
hopefully there will be some
safety unknown.
answers
I hope so.
soon.
I hope so.
That right person that you find. And it could
Yeah.
just be that it's taking them some time to process. It was a
Hmm.
long time ago, right? That
Yeah.
48 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
gosh. I
I
do have a
just,
quick
yeah.
this is nothing to do, but you ended up in Queens, which is the biggest Greek
Hmm.
population, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
In
In
Astoria,
Astoria,
Queens,
yes,
no less too.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm a big fat Greek cliche,
Yeah.
a
yes.
Greek American cliche,
Yeah.
and I love it. Like that's another thing too. You maybe in my younger years I've made sense of it differently now that I'm 48, but I'm like I
Right.
was always trying to get out. I was always trying to
Yeah.
like scratch
Same.
my way out of this little tiny town, which is great. That no
Hmm.
shade to that. I had a
Can
really
relate to that.
really good
Mm-hmm.
childhood
Me too.
and normal by all accounts of what a normal childhood looks like to people outside. Um, but I remember in high school being like, I want to apply out of state. No, 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 you can't apply out of state. Okay. So I
Same.
went down to UCLA. So I was like, all right, how far away can I get in a big city? San Francisco's too close. I got to go further. And
Yeah.
then, like, not like had a round trip ticket to New York and didn't go back because I got a job out
Yeah.
here and then applied to grad school and then stayed. And then, like, New York, I think, is the place.
You
New
just
York,
feel at
because
home.
I can go both ways. I can go to Greece when I want to go to Greece, and I can go back to California if I want. It feels different now, though. The older I get, like where I was born
Yeah.
feels different.
It does,
Hmm.
doesn't it? It's
Because
Hmm.
we
it was just really a
yeah.
stop for your mom, right? It wasn't really, she didn't have any connection to it
Yeah.
except that her
Hmm.
brother was there.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's real no biological connection to
Whole.
the
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
So,
It's
wow. Well,
interesting. Yeah.
so what's next? You're just gonna sort of see what happens and
Um, that's a really good question. The apartment that again, it's a huge get. Like when my biological mother passed away in 22, 2022. So my first, when I got phone calls from the uncle in California, my uncle in California, and a first cousin in Greece that we've developed a closeness and a relationship with since. And that was actually her goddaughter, my biological mother's goddaughter.
Oh,
And uh, that relationship I'm so grateful for, because she and her sister have both said, like, if our parents and her our aunts and uncles had supported your
yeah,
biological mother more, we would have been raised together. We would have known each other.
yeah.
We wouldn't have had 40 plus years that we didn't know each other, because the cousin in California, my first cousin in California, is a year older than me, 75. I was born 76. The goddaughter, my first cousin, who's also my biological mother's goddaughter, was born in 77. Her sister was
You're
born in
just
78.
together. I have the
So,
same with my cousins, my girl cousins,
and
and my
are you close with them? Do you have a relationship?
very close, and their parents. They say it now. Why didn't we support? They
Mhm.
offered to take me, but not support her. Not even. They were young too. They were just like,
Mhm.
oh, why? Well, it's all aha moments all over the place, right? That's what
Yeah.
happens. I mean, looking backward.
And my uncle's wife has told me, um, my cousin didn't say this in California, but his mother did. So my biological uncle's wife was like, your cousin, when you guys connected on Facebook, got upset at us that we didn't take you in. Like, he
Mm.
thought like he could have had a sibling. He could have been raised with. He did have an older sibling that was much older, because it was from a different relationship before he was born, but he could have had a sister a year younger. And that's the sliding doors thing you talk about all the
Yes.
time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so random. And she feels, my aunt, my biological uncle's wife, feels so, she was like, we couldn't have given you that. Like, almost like she's asking me to forgive her. I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm just processing this. I'm just like, I mean, I'm mad at the like patriarchy, but
System
Right.
and yeah,
Right. The
yeah.
yeah, but I'm
system.
not
Right.
mad at a
Not at people.
person. Yeah.
Right. I'm not either.
Um, she just said it again this summer when we saw them. She's like, we just had our son and he was so young. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's not okay. Like, the whole system is not okay, but it's not her fault. It's not one person's fault.
No.
Um, so we have this place in Athens, because when they told me that my biological mother died, I immediately felt, actually, that was when I really felt grateful. Not that she died, but because I met her. I was like, oh, thank
Oh
God.
yeah.
Because if I did not go out there in 2019, we didn't travel in 20, nobody, we didn't travel in
No.
2020
Right.
or 21. So we got, I just immediately was like, thank God I met her. Thank the universe
Yes.
that I met this person. Like, if I did not
The
do this when I
timing.
did, I never would have met her. Now, of course, I regret not doing it sooner, because there's this person that I'm trying to get to know through papers and books and
Yeah.
objects and clothes, and um
So
but
you inherited the apartment.
that was the next phone call that they gave me after they
I
told me
like
she passed
that.
away. She's
Wow.
like, so she she left this for you. And that
Mm.
was really hard.
Dude.
It's hard because it sounds lovely to say, but it's a really,
Mhm.
like, I don't feel uh entitled actually to it. Like, I'm like, this
I'm
can't be
sure.
mine. It's really hard being in that space this summer.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard. It was
I'm
hard.
sure it's hard, but long term, you have a place to connect with family and
Yeah.
stay to be near your
Yeah.
roots, and you can make it keep some things of hers and make it a little different. And
Yeah.
I
I'm
just think
And really
it
great for
it
your
is.
daughter, right? So
That's how I was
it's a
thinking long
legacy.
term.
Um, really, really,
Mm,
it's a gift, even if it feels not
heavy.
that way at the moment. It really
mhm.
is a gift.
It
I do.
is.
I know intellectually that it is, and it's that's
You're
going to be
still
the
in it.
next step. That's the
Yeah.
next. What's next is, okay, this is a space that I want to honor my biological mother, and I want to pass it on to my daughter. And that's what my daughter and I went. We went as a family. My husband joined us eventually, but I'm like, first I was like, I want to go by myself. And both my husband and my daughter were like, yeah, you're not going to be okay by yourself. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't, but I'm really glad my daughter came with me, and so we were there by ourselves for a week, just going
her
through
biology
things.
too. It's very bonding for
Mhm,
the two of
mhm,
you.
mhm.
Yeah.
Like generations of women in this space.
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah,
wow.
that's
What,
cool,
what a
actually.
beautiful story, Andrea. That is just
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
brought to tears a few
I
times
know.
throughout
I'm
this.
very
Oh,
emotional
Really,
over it.
I'm
thank you.
emotional too. So thank you for sharing and thanks for listening and
Oh my
like
goodness. Yes,
letting, you know, it's a validating when our emotions are kind of reflected back
it
to us
is.
too. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
very
not
much
just
so.
me that kind of is that feels this way. So thanks.
You know,
Thank
I was
you.
thinking when you said it, you could use it as a writing loft, okay? Because you're writing now. So
Hmm.
maybe that you create a writing retreat or something for
Yeah.
yourself, you know?
I'm hoping to do some writing around it. I've done a little bit through like the
Mm-hmm.
group and we'll see what comes
Yeah.
of it. I'll let you know
Well,
if anything comes of
thank you for
that.
And please
telling
keep us
us.
posted
Yeah,
on the rest of your
please.
Thank you. I
what
will.
what comes
I
to
will.
pass with that.
Thank
We
you.
we
Thank you
love to
so
have
much.
follow-up, stay in
Yeah.
touch and hear the follow-up. So
I mean,
And thank you
this
for
is a,
supporting us all the time on socials. I wanted to thank you because you're one of our big like supporters.
I love what you do. And I
Thank
hope to support as a Patreon one day too. I'm like, let me get through the therapy a little bit more.
Don't
And like,
worry.
but one day I hope to be in those, is it coffee out? What do you call it that happens on the week?
Adoptee
Adoptee
Cafe.
Adoptee
Cafe.
Cafe. Yeah, I would love to
Yeah.
see you there. That's
That came from
on my to-do
Cynthia.
list.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is
But
cool.
you like all our posts, and that means a lot too. You're always
Oh,
commenting. It's
thanks.
helpful. Thank you.
It's real like that you
Yeah.
contribute so
It
much to
feels
the
that way.
community. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank
So
you.
nice to talk to you.
Likewise, likewise. Okay, do I sign
Okay.
off? Is that
This,
how
Yep.
it works?
yeah.
Okay, great talking to you. Thank you both so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Andrea.
All
Okay.
right,
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.